Hi all, Christoph here. I did a little bit of design work on the Saving Satoshi coding game and would like to show it off here real quick. So thank you, Stacy, for writing out all this text for some of the challenges, and Jonas also. So I basically my goal was to take this copy and just put it in a design and kind of see what happens and then make changes accordingly. So that's what I did here. Let's say this is our landing page here. Get to the website and I see these different chapters here where I can learn things, and I press start chapter, and then I would end up in something like this. So here's what happened. I put in this image, put in the copy here, and as you can tell, there's a lot of reading, and then we get into these individual activities. So it shows me some sample code, and then I need to start typing in some text, and I can see what the hash is. So this would the whole page with all of those different tasks then would be pretty long. And here in the second one, I already made a little bit of a change. Instead of explaining what hashes are, making people read all the text, I put in the interactive bits a bit further up. So as you can see over here, I have to read a whole screen of text, and then I get to play with things. Up here, it's more like it's just asking, just type something in and then see what happens, see what these hashes look like, even though you might not totally understand them yet, right? But you you play with things, you start toying around, and then you see a result. And then, it picks up and it says, as you noticed, hashes are unique. You may have noticed this and that. Now let's see if you can find a specific hash. So it's more of a back and forth between a little bit of information and something interactive. Now, as I did this, the page also got pretty long. And then, at some point you finish the chapter. So looking at it, it's kind of long. So I wanted to try a different approach. So let's say this is an approach where you have many individual screens and you just see one thing at a time. So let's say I start into the chapter. I see this cover image here. And then, it has a very brief introduction. This could be part of the story or on the topic, and maybe both. Then similarly, I have here a play area just to let people play with hashes and to show you. So this is kind of the second thing that I did. So I have a little bit of information on the left and then something to play with on the right. And then you type in a hash, you see it down here, and then you press next, and then you get to the next screen. And then it has more instructions. It's kind of the classic left-right instructions on the left, coding, and result on the right-hand setup. Now this also, I thought, it's good, but it's also a little bit repetitive. Let's see if we can take a little bit further. Similarly, you start with a screen like this, and you press start. And then instead of having always sticking with the left-right, I wanted to see if it can be simplified and made visually a little bit more interesting. So in here, you really just see an input field at the top, and then you see the result at the bottom, and everything's a little bit bigger and more chunky. So you type something in, you see the hashes below, it tells you that this was good, you're done with the challenge, and you press next and go to the next one. Then there is a purely informational screen. Also trying to keep this kind of concise, and it introduces you the next challenge. So here it is. I need to enter anything until I find a hash that starts with a 0. So when again, just kind of typing away, and then the hash below, only the first letter will be highlighted. The other ones will be dimmed a little bit, because only the first one kind of matters for us. Once I found a hash that starts with a 0, I also get this approval message. Let's see. And then, a very simple difficulty improvement here for the next challenge. Let's try to find a hash with 2 zeros. And then you do the same thing. And then the next step is, let's make the computer do this for us. We're going to write a script now. And then it tells you that you need to find a hash that starts with 5 zeros. And that's where we would get into the left-right screen split. So on the left is, we already kind of know our challenge, we know what we need to do. So we have more of an explanation about how we're actually going to do this. For example, when there's kind of a stub here for a function, and it tells me when I press run script down here, then this function will be continuously executed every split second or so with increasing nonces, and then you kind of return true when you know this was positively created a hash that we want, and you return false if it doesn't, or something like that. You guys know these things better. Because we have a bit of explanation to do here, going from this really minimal interaction to something more complex. So let's say I write some code here, which I didn't, and I press script. So imagine there's code here. It continuously says, it starts as find hash 0, and then it shows me the result, and then it evaluates it. Okay, only 2 zeros here. We're going to try this again. And then it starts again with find hash 1, 2, 3, 4, and just, it probably goes pretty fast. And then at some point, the function returns a hash that we want, and then it would also validate this and tell me that I did a fantastic job. Then there would be another kind of a info screen here in the middle, and then we would go to the next challenge, which is writing a function that finds hashes with progressively more zeros. So for this one, my question would be, well, when do we stop? Do we let the script run until 10, and then we let the user know that that they can move on to the next section? Not totally sure here, but basically the logic, everything would be as before. And then I finish everything, and then I was thinking, we kind of have this big, super visual screen where some better generated image than this one here, but basically give them some type of feeling of success and completion, and give them badges or whatever we think is appropriate. So this is kind of where I am with trying to turn the text for a lesson into an interactive experience. Also put together a prototype here that I can show real quick. So this is what that would be like. I press start chapter 2. This, and I type something, click through, get more information, finish this one, go over here, finish this one, here, write my code and run the script. Then I get the success, do the same thing here, and then I get my feeling of my success message here. So that's it. Just did this and sharing it back, and you are more than welcome to give all kinds of feedback, positive, negative, ideas. It's all good. So let me know. Thanks.